You open a message. You read every word. You even know exactly what you want to say. And then, you put your phone down. Maybe for 20 minutes. Maybe for 3 hours. Maybe the entire day passes, and that little notification just sits there, quietly, patiently, waiting for you. And here's the part that might surprise you. The people you take the longest to reply to are often the ones you care about most. From the outside, it looks like neglect. But from the inside, it feels like something else entirely. Something you may have never quite been able to explain, even to yourself. So today, that's what we're going to do. Because if you've ever stared at a message, wanted to reply, and still couldn't bring yourself to do it, this might be the explanation you've been looking for. Before we go any further, let's make something clear. Taking hours to reply does not mean you are careless. It does not mean you are emotionally unavailable. It does not mean something is wrong with you. In fact, the behavior you're probably judging yourself for right now, that pattern of seeing a message and still waiting, usually begins somewhere much deeper than laziness. It begins with the way your mind learned to protect itself. Not perfectly, not always in the healthiest way, but with a logic of its own, a logic we're going to unpack together. Because here's what most people miss. Human behavior rarely develops without a reason. Even the habits we're most ashamed of usually began as solutions to something. A way to manage pressure, a way to create space, a way to stay safe when safety wasn't guaranteed. And delayed replies are no different. For many people, the problem begins the moment they see the message. Because what arrives as a few words on a screen doesn't stay that way. It transforms. It becomes a task, a responsibility, a small, invisible obligation hovering at the edge of your awareness. You don't just think, I should reply. You think, what should I say? What tone should I use? What if I word it wrong? What if they expect something I can't deliver? Before you realize it, a 30-second interaction has become a quiet mental project. And this often traces back to something psychologists call internalized expectations, a belief, usually formed early in life, that your responses must be right. Some people grow up being highly attuned to how others interpret their words. They learn, usually from repeated experience, that what they say and how they say it carries consequences. So they wait, not because they don't care, because they care so much that they can't afford to get it wrong. You can see this pattern everywhere. The friend who rewrites the same message 5 times before hitting send. The employee who spends 20 minutes crafting a 2-sentence reply. The person who leaves a message on read because opening it feels like accepting a weight they aren't ready to carry yet. What looks like avoidance from the outside is often just pressure, wearing a different mask. But that's only the first layer. Because for others, delayed replies have less to do with perfectionism and more to do with something much simpler. Exhaustion. Modern life creates a kind of overstimulation that our nervous systems were never designed for. Notifications, group chats, emails, updates, questions, demands, all arriving simultaneously from people who expect a version of you that is always present, always available, always on. And yet your brain hasn't evolved for constant accessibility. So sometimes a text arrives at the exact moment your mental bandwidth is already full. You've spent the day responding to coworkers, customers, family, strangers on the internet. By evening, even a simple "how are you?" can feel heavier than it should. Not because the message itself is exhausting, because the person receiving it has nothing left to give. In those moments, silence becomes a form of recovery, like stepping into a quiet room after hours in a loud, crowded city. You're not withdrawing from people. You're withdrawing from overstimulation, and your nervous system is trying to restore itself. This is where many people become unnecessarily cruel to themselves. They interpret their exhaustion as a social failure, as evidence that something is broken in them. But often, it's simply evidence that they are human. Connection requires energy, and energy isn't always available on demand. Now here's the part nobody tells you. Sometimes the delay has nothing to do with the message at all. It's about what the message represents. A text from a friend might look harmless on the surface, but beneath it, it can quietly activate much older emotional patterns. Patterns around vulnerability, around closeness, around what happens when you let someone in. Consider someone who learned early in life that relationships were unpredictable, that affection came and went without warning, that people could be available one day and distant the next. The brain is extraordinarily good at adapting to environments like this. It becomes watchful, protective, careful about when and how much to open up. And as an adult, that same wiring doesn't disappear. It travels with you. It shows up in 100 small ways, including in how long it takes you to reply. Because replying means engaging. Engaging means becoming vulnerable. And vulnerability always carries uncertainty. What if this conversation asks more of me than I can give right now? What if expectations increase? What if I open this door and don't know how to close it again? None of these thoughts are fully conscious. They move underneath the surface, quietly influencing behavior while you sit there wondering why you can't just send a simple reply. So the brain buys time. Not because connection is unwanted, because caution feels like safety. It's like standing at the edge of cold water. You know you'll eventually step in, but first you pause. Not because you hate swimming, because your body wants a moment before the discomfort. And this is where it gets even more interesting, because there's one more reason behind the delay, and it might be the most overlooked of all. Human beings crave a sense of agency, especially when life feels chaotic, when work is relentless, when relationships are complicated, when responsibilities arrive faster than you can process them. The ability to choose when you respond becomes quietly, almost invisibly comforting. A message arrives, and for a brief moment, you have power. You can answer now, or later, or much later. And later feels easier, because later belongs to you. It restores something small but significant, a sense that not every demand gets immediate access to your time, your attention, your energy. For some people, delayed replies function as a kind of informal boundary, not a deliberate one, not one they consciously designed, just an instinctive way of maintaining ownership of their own mental space in a world that constantly asks for more of it. The irony is that many of these same people secretly worry they're disappointing others. They feel guilty for taking too long, but they also feel overwhelmed by the pressure to always be available. They are caught between two legitimate needs, connection and preservation, and they have not yet found a way to fully honor both at once. Here's something else worth understanding. This behavior doesn't stay the same your whole life. It shifts. As a teenager, delayed replies often come from insecurity. You overanalyze. You replay conversations. You wonder what every word means and what every pause implies. In your 20s, the same delay might come from overwhelm, the dawning realization that attention is a finite resource and you've been trying to split it too many ways. Later, the same pattern might look like clarity, a quieter sense of where your energy belongs, a deeper understanding of what kinds of conversations actually restore you and which ones drain you before they even begin. From the outside, all three look identical. Hours pass. The reply doesn't come. But internally, the story underneath has changed completely. That's what makes human behavior so endlessly complex. The action stays the same. The meaning behind it evolves. And perhaps that's why judging ourselves based purely on our habits can be so misleading. The habit is only the surface. What lives beneath it is something far more layered. At its deepest level, this isn't really about texting. It's about emotional regulation. The mind is always searching for equilibrium, always trying to manage the gap between what life is asking of you and what you currently have to offer. Sometimes it finds that balance through connection, through conversation, through the warmth of feeling seen. And sometimes it finds it in silence, in the temporary relief of stepping away from expectations, of letting time pass without the pressure to perform. For some people, the quiet space before a reply functions like a familiar room they've always known how to find. A place where the demands are softer, where they don't have to be anything in particular, where they can simply exist for a moment without being needed. It doesn't always feel peaceful in that room. Sometimes it feels like guilt, sometimes loneliness. But the reason they return there again and again isn't because they don't want connection. It's because, somewhere along the way, that room became the place where they knew how to breathe. So if you're someone who reads a message the moment it arrives and still takes hours to reply, if you've ever watched that notification sit there while some quiet part of you wondered what was wrong with you, maybe nothing is wrong with you. Maybe your mind has simply learned certain ways of creating space when life feels crowded. Certain ways of protecting itself when emotions feel heavy. Certain ways of slowing down in a world that never stops asking you to speed up. Not every habit is a flaw waiting to be corrected. Sometimes it's a clue, a quiet signal about what your nervous system needs, about what old experiences taught you, about how you've learned to navigate a world that can feel like too much, too often. And perhaps the most honest thing we can say about all of this is simply this. The next time you find yourself staring at a message you haven't answered, not because you don't care, but because something in you needed a moment before you could, maybe instead of criticizing yourself, you could be a little curious. Not to fix anything, not to change, just to understand. Because behind that silence isn't a broken person.